She called the cops and screamed, "He's refusing a lawful HOA order." I was standing on my own porch, holding a coffee mug. Karen was at the bottom of my steps, red in the face, waving a paper like it was a court order. "You can't just say no to me," she shouted. "This cabin is part of the community reserved for holiday rotation. I already promised my guests." I blinked at her. "It's my cabin." She laughed, actually laughed. "No. It's inside Cedar Pine HOA boundaries. That makes it subject to board decisions." "Board decisions? I bought this land 3 years ago. Cash, every inch of it. The trees, the dock, the small gravel driveway that barely fits 2 trucks. I built this cabin with my own hands after leaving the army. It's quiet here. No close neighbors, no street lights, just lake water and pine trees." Karen stepped closer. "You have until 5 p.m. to vacate. I'm hosting a private wellness retreat. I already charged them." "You charged them for my house?" I asked slowly. She smirked. "Technically, it's community access property." That's when I noticed something strange. The paper she was waving didn't have the official HOA seal, just a printed logo. "Crook, I'm not leaving," I said calmly. Her face changed instantly. The fake smile dropped. "Fine." She pulled out her phone. "You think I won't?" she snapped while dialing. "I'll have you removed." I didn't argue. I didn't shout. I just leaned on the railing and watched her. 10 minutes later, 2 patrol cars pulled up the dirt road. My stomach tightened not from fear, but from disbelief. Karen rushed to them before they even stepped out. "He's trespassing on HOA-managed land. He's aggressive and refusing to comply." "Aggressive?" One of the officers looked at me. "Sir, can you step down here?" I walked down slowly. "This is my property. I have the deed inside." Karen cut in. "He forged it." I checked county maps myself. Checked county maps herself. The officer asked for ID. I handed it over. My address matched the cabin. Karen's voice got louder. "He's scamming you. I'm on the HOA board." The second officer looked around. "Ma'am, where exactly are the HOA boundary markers?" She froze for half a second. "There used to be signs," she said quickly. "They must have been removed." "Removed?" I felt something shift. Then she said it. "Arrest him for non-compliance." "Non-compliance? On my own porch?" The first officer looked uncomfortable. "Sir, do you have proof of ownership?" I nodded. "Inside, along with something else." Karen folded her arms. "He's bluffing." I walked into the cabin slowly, feeling her eyes on my back. I could hear her whispering to the officers, trying to control the story. Inside, I didn't grab just the deed. I grabbed the metal folder from the top shelf, the one I never thought I'd need. When I stepped back outside, Karen's confidence was even higher. "See? He's packing to leave." "No," I said quietly. I handed the officer the deed first. Official stamp, county seal, recorded and verified. The officer studied it. Karen's smile faded just a little. Then I handed him the second document. His eyebrows went up. He looked at Karen, then back at me. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "are you aware this parcel was legally removed from HOA jurisdiction 2 years ago?" Silence. Karen blinked. "That's not possible. It was approved in a county vote, signed by the previous HOA president." Her mouth opened slightly. That document isn't real." I tilted my head. "It's filed at the county office." The second officer checked something on his tablet. A long pause. Then he looked at Karen. "It's valid." Her face drained of color. But I'm the acting HOA president," she snapped. "He can't just." "He already did," the officer replied. "That should have been the end." It wasn't. Karen suddenly pointed at my truck. "He's running an illegal rental operation. That cabin is being used commercially." "What?" I stared at her. She turned to the officers again. "Check his record. He's not even supposed to modify that land. There are protected trees back there." "Protected trees?" Now she was reaching. The officer looked at me. "Sir, do you operate any business here?" I hesitated for just a second. Karen caught it. "See." I exhaled slowly. "Not the way she thinks." The officer narrowed his eyes slightly. "What does that mean?" Karen stepped forward, desperate now. "He's hiding something. I know he is." I looked at her. "You really want to do this?" I asked quietly. She leaned in close and whispered so only I could hear. "You embarrassed me in front of my guests." "I don't lose guests." I glanced past her at the black SUV parked near the trees. Tinted windows. Engine still warm. I hadn't noticed it before. The officer followed my eyes. Is that your vehicle? No, Karen said quickly. It's for the retreat. Retreat? The back door of the SUV opened slightly, just an inch. Enough for me to see someone inside watching. And that's when I realized. Karen wasn't just trying to steal my cabin for a weekend. She was hiding something bigger. And she had no idea who she was really trying to push off this land. I looked at the officer and said calmly, "You might want to check who's actually registered to use this property. Starting tonight." Karen's head snapped toward me. What does that mean? I didn't answer. Because the twist she just triggered was about to flip this whole mountain upside down. The officer looked at me carefully. Registered for what? Karen laughed nervously. He's making things up now. There's no registration. This is HOA land. I kept my eyes on the SUV. Run the temporary federal use permit under parcel number for 7A. The second officer frowned. Federal? Karen's face twitched. There is no federal anything. He's lying. The officer tapped on his tablet again. Long pause. The wind moved through the trees. The SUV door closed softly. Then the officer looked up. Ma'am, this property has a short-term federal reservation filed for this weekend. Silence dropped like a rock. Karen blinked. What does that even mean? It means, he said slowly, this land is scheduled for official use. She laughed too loudly. Official use? For what? A barbecue? I didn't smile. The first officer looked at me. Sir, are you involved in this reservation? I authorized access, I said calmly. Karen stared at me like I'd grown a second head. You authorized? You live in a wooden cabin. Exactly. The SUV door opened fully this time. Two men stepped out. Plain clothes. Calm posture. Not rushing. Not loud. They didn't look at Karen first. They looked at me. One gave a small nod. Karen noticed it. Her voice cracked. Who are they? The second officer straightened a bit. Ma'am, please step back. For what? This is HOA property. One of the men from the SUV walked up slowly. He showed something briefly to the officers. I couldn't see it clearly, but I didn't need to. The officer's tone changed instantly. Understood. Karen's breathing got faster. What is going on? Why are you all ignoring me? The man finally looked at her. His voice was calm but sharp. Mom, did you attempt to remove the registered landholder from this property? She opened her mouth, closed it. I was enforcing HOA policy. There is no HOA authority here, he replied. She shook her head. He's nobody. He just moved here. Nobody. I almost laughed. The first officer cleared his throat. Ma'am, we're going to need you to stop making claims without verification. She spun toward me. What are you? Some kind of secret agent now? I looked at her evenly. You should have checked before trying to evict me. Her confidence was falling apart now. This is insane. I run this community. The second man from the SUV spoke for the first time. You run paperwork. Not this land. That line hit her hard. She stepped back. This is harassment. No. I said quietly. Calling cops on someone's own porch is harassment. She pointed at me again. You threatened me earlier. The officers both looked at her. We have body cam footage. Ma'am. Her finger slowly lowered. The first plainclothes man turned to me. Is the structure secured for tonight? Yes, I answered. Karen's eyes widened. Secured? For what tonight? No one responded to her. The officer looked at Karen. Ma'am, if you continue interfering with a federally permitted use area, you could face charges. Charges? Her voice cracked completely now. She looked at the cabin, then at the SUV, then at me. You planned this, she whispered. I shook my head slowly. No. You forced it. Because here's what she didn't know. 2 years ago, when I removed the cabin from HOA control, I also registered the land as an emergency fallback location under a veterans support network quiet program. Nothing flashy, just a safe place when certain people needed privacy. This weekend wasn't a retreat. It wasn't vacation guests. It was a closed-door meeting between people who didn't like attention. And Karen just tried to kick them out before they even arrived. The second officer's radio buzzed softly. He listened. His face tightened slightly. Ma'am, he said to Karen. Additional units are on their way to secure the area. Her knees almost buckled. For what? The first man from the SUV looked at her calmly. For the people you tried to evict. Karen turned to me one last time. Who are you? I held her stare. I'm the owner. She swallowed. Then headlights appeared at the end of the dirt road. Not police. Black vehicles. More than two. Karen whispered, almost to herself. What did I just walk into? I didn't answer. Because the real problem for her wasn't the cops. It was who was about to step out of those vehicles, and why they chose my cabin. The black vehicles rolled in slowly, tires crushing gravel like distant thunder. No sirens, no noise, just presence. Karen's breathing got louder. This is ridiculous. This is just intimidation. One of the officers stepped slightly in front of her. Ma'am, I strongly suggest you step away from the access road. She didn't move. The first SUV door opened. A tall man stepped out. Older, calm, clean-cut, not flashy, but the kind of quiet that makes people lower their voices without knowing why. Karen whispered, "Who is that?" The plainclothes man beside me answered without looking at her. "Someone you don't want to inconvenience." The older man walked toward us. He didn't look at the officers first. He looked at me. "Cabin secure?" he asked. "Yes, sir." He gave a small nod. Karen's head snapped toward me again. "Sir? You call him sir?" The man finally glanced at her. "Just a quick look. Is there a problem here?" Karen forced her confidence back. "Yes. This is HOA territory and..." "It isn't." The officer cutting. The older man tilted his head slightly. "HOA." Karen grabbed her fake notice from the ground. This man refused lawful removal for a scheduled wellness retreat. Wellness retreat, the older man repeated softly. Behind him, two more individuals stepped out of the other vehicles. They scanned the tree line, the dock, the roof of my cabin. Not nervous. Prepared. Karen crossed her arms again. "I demand to know what's happening." The older man looked at her calmly. "You demanded access to this cabin." "Yes," she said firmly, "for community benefit." He paused. "Did you verify ownership?" She hesitated. "It's within HOA lines." He looked at one of the officers. "Is that accurate?" "No, sir. Parcel for 7A is legally detached." Karen's jaw tightened. "Detached under suspicious paperwork." The plainclothes man beside me spoke. "File, recorded, verified." The older man stepped closer to Karen now. Not aggressive, just steady. "Mom, are you aware that interfering with a federally permitted private support site can carry serious penalties?" Her confidence cracked again. "Support site? For what?" "This is a cabin in the woods." I watched her carefully. This was the moment. "You really want to know?" I asked. She glared at me. "Yes." The older man didn't stop me, so I said it. "This cabin is used for closed veteran recovery meetings, off-grid, private. Some of the men coming tonight don't show their faces in public anymore." Karen's eyes flickered. One of the new arrivals stepped forward slightly. His sleeve shifted. A scar ran down his forearm. Deep. Old. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. Karen swallowed. That doesn't give you federal control." The older man responded quietly. "When coordination with certain agencies is involved, it does." The air changed again. Karen looked around like the trees themselves were against her. "But I already charged guests," she whispered. The plainclothes man finally looked directly at her. "So you attempted to profit from land you don't own?" Silence. The officer cleared his throat. "Ma'am, we're going to need to see your HOA documentation." Her fingers trembled as she reached for her purse. "I'm the acting president," she insisted weakly. "Acting," I repeated. She shot me a glare. The officer reviewed her paperwork. Another long pause. "Ma'am, your board election was never certified by the county." Her face went pale. "What?" "The previous president never filed the resignation, which means you are not legally recognized as HOA president." The words hit her harder than anything else. "That's impossible," she whispered. The older man turned to me slightly. "You knew?" "I had a feeling," I said. Karen looked at me like I'd betrayed her personally. "You planned this whole humiliation?" "No," I replied calmly. "You planned to take my home." The second officer's radio buzzed again. He listened carefully. Then his eyes narrowed. "Ma'am," he said slowly, "we're also seeing multiple complaints filed under your name in the last 6 months." She froze. "Complaints?" she asked quietly. "False trespassing reports, unauthorized towing requests, harassment citations that were dismissed." The officer looked at me briefly, then back at her. "And 3 reports involving forged signatures." The older man's expression didn't change. Karen started shaking her head. No. Those were misunderstandings. The plainclothes man stepped closer. Did you file a claim stating this property was abandoned? Karen didn't answer. The officer checked his tablet again. Yes, sir, he said quietly. She did. 2 weeks ago. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Abandoned. She tried to mark my cabin abandoned. That's fraud, the officer added. Karen's voice came out thin. I thought he wasn't using it regularly. I live here, I said. You disappear for weeks. She snapped. I travel, I replied calmly. The older man looked at me. For work. Karen blinked. What work? I held her stare for a long second. The kind that doesn't get advertised. The wind picked up again, moving through the trees. The scarred man by the SUV finally spoke, his voice low and steady. Ma'am, some of us come here because we don't want attention. You just brought a parade. That hit her hard. She looked at the growing number of vehicles, the officers, the quiet men, the cameras on uniforms recording everything. I didn't know, she whispered. That's the problem, I said. You didn't check. You just assumed. The first officer stepped forward. Ma'am, at this point, we're going to need you to remain while we sort through the filings you've submitted. Her eyes widened. Remain. Am I being detained? For now. Her breath got shallow. This is insane, she muttered. The older man turned back toward the cabin. We're on schedule? Yes, I said. He nodded, because he had. Karen noticed that too. You've been here before? She asked weakly. The plainclothesman answered her without emotion. Multiple times, she looked around at everything differently now. The dock, the tree line, the cabin roof, like she was seeing it for the first time. You're not just some guy in the woods, she said quietly. I didn't respond. The second officer approached her carefully. Ma'am, we also need to address the fake HOA eviction notice. It wasn't fake, she insisted. It lacked a valid seal and reference number. She looked at her paper again, like it betrayed her. I was trying to improve the community, she said softly. The scarred man looked at her directly. You don't improve a place by stealing from someone who fought to protect it. That line hung in the air. One of the black vehicle's rear doors opened. Another man stepped out, older than the rest, walking with a slight limp. Karen noticed the limp, and something in her expression changed from anger to fear. Because she realized this wasn't about a weekend cabin. This wasn't about HOA power. This wasn't about her guests. She had stepped into something much bigger. The older man with the limp walked toward the porch slowly. When he reached me, he extended his hand. Good to see you again, he said quietly. Always, I reply. Karen stared at us. You know him too? Yes, I said. The first officer approached carefully. Sir, is this gathering compliant with federal and local regulations? The older man answered smoothly. Fully. He handed over a small folder. Official stamps. Clearances. Signatures. The officer nodded respectfully. Karen's shoulders finally dropped. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. I just wanted one weekend. I looked at her calmly. And you were willing to take someone's home to get it. She didn't argue this time. The officer gently turned her around. Ma'am, we're going to escort you back down the road while we continue reviewing the reports. Am I under arrest? She asked again. Not yet. The word yet echoed louder than anything else that night. As she walked away, she stopped once more and looked back at me. You could have just told me, she said quietly. I shook my head. You didn't come here to listen. She didn't have an answer. The officers led her toward her car. The black vehicle stayed. The older man with the limp looked at me. Still quiet enough out here. For now, I said. He glanced toward the row where Karen disappeared. That might change. I watched the headlights fade through the trees. She won't stop, I said. The plainclothes man beside me nodded. People like her never do. The scarred man exhaled slowly. But now she knows. Knows what? The older man answered my unspoken thought. That some land doesn't bend to loud voices. The wind calmed. The lake was still again. For a moment, everything felt steady. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I looked at the screen. The message was short. She already contacted the county again. I showed it to the older man. He didn't look surprised. What now? I asked quietly. He gave a small, knowing smile. Now we see how far she's willing to push. Behind us, more vehicles began setting up discreet perimeter lights. Inside the cabin, Chairs were being arranged. Coffee brewing. Quiet preparation. The meeting was still happening, because this place wasn't just wood and nails. It was a promise, and promises don't get handed over to someone who screams the loudest. As the last light faded behind the trees, I looked at the road one more time. Karen thought tonight was the meltdown. She had no idea. This was only the first crack in the mask she wore. And tomorrow, the entire community would find out who she really was. By sunrise, the lake looked peaceful again. You'd never guess what almost happened there the night before. Inside the cabin, the meeting had gone late. Quiet voices. Heavy stories. Men who carried things most people never see. No cameras. No speeches. Just real talk. Healing without headlines. That was the point of this place. Around 7 a.m., the last black SUV rolled down the dirt road. The older man with the limp shook my hand before leaving. "Thank you for keeping this ground solid," he said. "It's your ground too," I replied. He gave a small nod and got in. When the dust settled, it was just me again. Pine trees. Still water. Coffee on the porch. Then my phone rang. It was Officer Daniels. "You might want to check the county site," he said. My stomach tightened. What now? She filed an emergency injunction at 3 a.m., claimed unlawful federal occupation of residential land. Of course she did. I opened the county website, but instead of seeing my cabin flagged, I saw something else. A public notice. Investigation opened. Cedar Pine HOA financial review. I sat up straight. Financial review? Daniels continued. When she filed the injunction, she attached HOA financials to prove board authority. And the numbers don't match. I didn't say anything. He went on. There are deposits from retreat bookings going back 6 months. Thousands of dollars. None reported to the county. So that's what this was really about. She wasn't hosting a wellness weekend. She'd been renting properties she didn't own. Mine just happened to be the one she couldn't control. Forgery. Misrepresentation. Unlawful profit. Danielle said quietly. And now federal interference. I leaned back in my chair. She did this to herself. Looks that way. By noon, word spread through Cedar Pine. Neighbors started messaging me. "Did you see the county notice? Karen's house has investigators outside. Was she really renting our trails for private events?" I didn't respond. I just watched from the porch as two county vehicles drove past my road. Not toward me. Toward her. Around 2 p.m., I heard shouting echo faintly through the trees. Not angry shouting. Panicked. An hour later, Officer Daniel's truck pulled up. He stepped out slowly. "It's official," he said. "She's being charged." "For what exactly?" "Fraud. Filing false reports. Impersonating HOA authority. Attempted unlawful eviction. And misusing community funds." I let that settle. "She tried to mark your cabin abandoned," he added. "That alone is serious." I nodded. "She said she was protecting property values," Danielle said with a tired half-smile. I looked around at the trees. "This isn't about property values," I said quietly. "It's about respect." He studied me for a moment. "You could have gone public last night. You didn't." "No," I said. "This place isn't for drama." He nodded slowly. "Some of the men who came, they vouched for you. They didn't need to." "Maybe not," he said. "But they did." Before leaving, Daniels paused at the edge of the porch. "You know," he said, "when she called us, she screamed, 'Arrest him,' like you were some threat." I almost smiled. "I guess I was." He laughed lightly. Not the kind she thought. By evening, the Cedar Pine HOA board released a statement. They removed her. Publicly. Turns out the acting president had been acting alone. The previous president never resigned. She'd just started signing emails as if she had power, and people believed her because she was loud. That's all it took. Volume, confidence, fake paperwork, until it hit something real. 2 days later, she tried one last move. She posted online that I had military intimidation ties, and that the cabin was a secret compound. It got traction for about 6 hours. Then someone leaked the full county documents, every false report she filed, every forged notice. Every dollar she took. The comments turned fast. The same neighbors who once avoided conflict were suddenly speaking up. She threatened my kid over a basketball hoop. She fined me for my mailbox color. She told me my flag was off-brand. Off-brand. I shook my head when I read that. That was her mistake. She thought this country was a brand. It isn't. It's land. Land people bleed for. Land people protect. Land people come back to when the noise gets too loud. A week later, I got a letter. Not from the HOA, from the county. It confirmed permanent removal of my parcel from any future HOA jurisdiction. Locked in, non-reversible, no future board could touch. I stood on the dock that evening, letter in hand. The water moved gently under the sunset, peaceful, the way it should be. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. I answered. Silence for a second. Then her voice. Soft. Different. I didn't know who you were, Karen said. I didn't answer right away. You never asked, I replied finally. She exhaled slowly. They're selling my house. That surprised me. Legal fees, she said quietly, and restitution. I stayed silent. I thought controlling things meant I was protecting them, she admitted. No. I said calmly. Protecting means serving, not owning. Another pause. I never meant for it to go that far. It always goes that far, I said, when you think someone else's home belongs to you. She didn't argue. For the first time since I met her, she didn't argue. I'm sorry, she said. The line went quiet. I looked out at the lake. I hope you figure out the difference, I said, between what? Power and permission. She hung up. I didn't block the number, didn't need to, because this was never about revenge. It was about a line in the dirt, and knowing when to hold it. That weekend, the men returned quietly to their lives. No headlines, no applause, just steady footsteps, and my cabin stayed exactly where it belonged, on my land, under my roof, protected not by volume, but by truth. And every time I hear someone say, it's just a cabin in the woods, I remember the night someone screamed, arrest him, and how fast the world shifted when the wrong person tried to claim the wrong ground. Because here's the thing she learned too late. You can fake authority, you can fake paperwork, you can even fake confidence, but you can't fake ownership. And you definitely can't take land from someone who knows exactly why they're standing on it.